So a couple of things come to mind, right? Especially with the paradigm shift in people eating away from home and then also eating at home. Right? Technology has become critically important. And you've seen that already. Everybody is using technology in some way or another. What I would caution you against is to not use technology just for the sake of technology, but to indeed make sure, let it not be monkey see, monkey do, right? Let it be something that works exactly for your business and works more importantly for enhancing the customer's experience. Design innovation is another thing that is critically important. Young millennials, and indeed people that are past that point of young, in India today are far better traveled than they used to be when I was growing up in India. When I was a kid, somebody went to Singapore, it was a big deal. Now people are traveling like they used to when they went to Pune from Bombay. So people are very familiar with what is going on in the rest of the world. I was in Atlanta recently visiting my daughter, and I got a message from somebody on my marketing team saying, hey, go to Lafayette and check out their croissant. I said, where is it? She said, there's a cafe in New York City called Lafayette, and they have like this croissant to die for. And I'm thinking, how do you know that? You've never been to America, right? And I think I can see some heads nodding here because all of you understand what I'm saying. Social media has made the world a small global village, and everybody knows that a young 22-year-old woman sitting in Bombay knows that a cafe has opened up in the Bronx, and this is the design, and this is what they're selling, and this is what a great quality croissant tastes like. So we have to step up and design our spaces in a manner that appeals to this aspiration for global experiences. Product innovation has been a constant thing. We've all known that since we were kids, but the need is more urgent than now. That you have to keep up with the changing tastes of the Indian consumer, especially the urban Indian consumer. And I think that for the most part, you're all doing a very good job with that. I see some beautifully designed, Akshay Bector just showed me a picture of his daughter's bakery concept. It's a small, beautifully designed place. So I think that we're doing a really good job with that. And that needs to continue because these are all important inputs of our continued success. The one thing that I think we don't talk about as often, and we talk a lot about product and design and technology and funding and all of that. And this is my experience. You feel free to raise your hand and disagree. The one thing that we don't talk about as often as people capital. And the truth is that technology is replicable. The technology you buy, somebody else can buy within weeks. The design is replicable. What you design, somebody else can do a better job than that. It's relatively easy to do. Product innovation, a successful restaurant has many, flattering imitators, right? That's easy to do, relatively easy to do. But the secret weapon that we don't focus on enough is people, which can truly be a distinct competitive advantage for you. And I think if you close your eyes, I want you to think about, and I won't name anybody, a company that is in a very simple business where you go in for a very mundane product and you come out feeling like, wow, that was a great experience. How do they do that? I can't tell you how many times I've been asked that question. I came back to India about 4 years ago. I was CEO for Starbucks. That's the number one asked question. How do you do that? So I wanted to focus my time today on impressing upon whomever wants to listen, is that we really need to pay greater attention to this people aspect. How we select them, how we train them, how we treat them. And I'm going to be very transparent here, and I'll say certain things that may seem, this is not anti-national. Please, no hate mail, no hate mail, right? But in India, in particular, we have this rather hierarchical mindset. कि मैं boss हूँ, तू क्या है? And I've seen that in many different landscapes, and it's a bit of a tragedy, because your business can only be as successful as everyone in the hierarchy wants it to be. Right? You're only as strong as your weakest link, as they say. So how you train and select and develop people, show them a path. One of the things that I was most impressed with when I first came to India is everybody has an MBA. Everybody wants to go somewhere. Everybody is constantly looking for upward mobility. This is not the case in the Western Hemisphere, where I lived for 32 years. But here, the aspirations are fantastic. So then what is keeping it from moving faster? I think, so I'll tell you a quick story. Many years ago, this was probably in the early 90s, I had the good fortune of being part of a task force that was trying to understand why in the quick service business there was such high attrition. Turnover, as we called it in the US. Attrition is called turnover. McDonald's in the US at that time had 300% turnover, which means if you had 20 people working in one location, you were hiring 60 people every year. Imagine the cost of training, imagine the cost of impact on the customer experience, right? So about a group of about 12 of us were picked from different brands to try and understand what is it. And we wanted to reach out to people who had left to understand, why did you leave? Now that was more difficult to do, so we kind of focused on the mirror image of that, on why do you stay? So we talked to thousands of people, literally thousands of people, say, what makes you stay here in your job? And the top 5 things that came up. Number 5 was, I make a decent wage. So money was number 5. Number 4 was, which surprised me a little bit, that I learn life skills here. I'm young, this is my first job, I deal with a lot of difficult people, I'm learning new stuff here. I'm becoming an adult here. I'm learning to navigate the world here. Number 3 was, it's a friendly, collegiate atmosphere. It's fun to come to work. I enjoy coming to work. I say, लगता ही नहीं मैं काम कर रहा हूँ. It's just great fun. Number 2 was flexibility. In those days, you used to be very regimented. You miss a shift, you're out. You're fired. And I see some traces of that in India also, right? क्या मतलब, you can't come tomorrow? You can't come tomorrow? Get up. You're not needed here. And I'm speaking in general terms. Don't be offended if your company is not like that, right? So I'm not accusing anybody in particular. But by and large, it's still a very regimented. So flexibility, those young people, and this may apply more to the US because there were students, etc., saying, sometimes I forget to do my homework. Sometimes I'm invited to a party I didn't think I would be invited to. If I want a day off tomorrow, figure it out, man. I want a day off tomorrow. Who can guess the number one reason why people said they stay? Anybody want to take a guess at this? The number one reason that people said, I work here because ...
Because I have a supportive manager.
Pardon me?
I have a supportive manager.
Bingo! That is the number one reason. Absolutely, hands down, the number one reason. My manager treats me with respect. So being supportive is one of those, right? But my manager treats me like I am an important part of this organization. Now, one way of thinking about it is that this is simple, there's nothing complicated about it. As a matter of fact, you're right. There is nothing complicated about our business, right? A business is very simple, but my God, it's not easy. The number of moving parts that this business has beats a lot of other businesses, right? And the idea of treating people with the utmost respect at all levels, on the surface of it, feels like, what's the big deal? True, it's not profound. If you were looking for something profound today, then maybe the next speaker will fulfill that need. I have nothing profound to say. The question I have, and I feel rather strongly about this because in my life experience, I've worked for companies where people meant nothing. They were treated like dirt, right? And then I worked for companies where people were treated with so much regard that was almost felt like, okay, I think we're overdoing this a little bit. And if you had to choose one, certainly you want to be, in this camp versus that camp. So many of you may think that, yep, box checked, done. I would really ask you to pause and reflect and ask yourselves the question, does my organization do that? And be honest with yourself, right? I mean, the only person you can't fool is yourself. Does my organization do that? And what is my role in making that happen? There's this wonderful book by Tom Rath and Mary Reckenmeyer. I think you should check it out. It's called How Full Is Your Bucket? So we all have an emotional bucket. You, me, customers, employees, everybody has an emotional bucket. And we all have a desire for that emotional bucket to be filled. And we all have expectations of our people to fulfill the emotional buckets of our customers. The question is, are you filling their bucket? And then of course the question could also be, who's filling my bucket? Right? And sometimes you feel like, oh yeah, we do that. In my department, yeah, absolutely. I would urge you to think again, because it doesn't work with just one department. It'll give you some benefits, right? But only when you make a cultural shift, when you truly develop that wonderfully secret weapon that is not easy to develop. I'm telling you, it is not easy to develop, to do this sort of thing consistently. The technology piece, the design piece, the innovation piece, the whatever, right? The product piece is far easier. To make a commitment to filling people's buckets, as it were, right, is not easy. The question you have to ask yourself, truly, if I'm the CEO of the company, am I role modeling it? Is it happening in my organization, and am I role modeling it? Because people take notice of everything that you as leaders are doing. Everything. The way you talk, the way you dress, the way you walk, the way you interact with people. People are noticing everything and they're making judgments about you. Constantly. If you're the CEO of an organization or the head of a group, are you role modeling it? Because when you truly accomplish that, you will be unbeatable. You'll be unbeatable. I'll leave you with that thought. Thank you.